and Beethoven, and his son Choi. My name is Natalia Sudova. I will guide this conversation. Exhibition called Resonance, and as you see, the artists work in different disciplines. So exhibition very multidisciplinary, but we find this collaboration very interesting. And first of all, I would like to ask each of artists tell a bit more about the idea, concept, and what's then behind.
That's yeah, that's good questions. Should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what would you like to know first? Because it's a big question.
Yes,
Should I start maybe with
what would you say to the people who step in first time? Just what is it?
I never say actually what a piece is. Because I feel then I kind of, well, that's more maybe my sensitivity. I would block, like I would like to experience something for myself, but I do give them something, some entrance. So I would say, hey guys, this is the work I made after months of meditating. Not in a row. I started to meditate really intensely, I think 6 months ago. I finished my first non-fiction book about my background as an adopted child. The book is here, by the way, next to the songs book. And that was quite intense and personal, and so for me the meditating was in a way a method to find peace of mind, or when I think I just always, you actually try to empty my mind. So before that I was very interested in silence as a concept already, and then I noticed when meditating I was trying to see the things I saw by finding a new kind of silence, and that's what I used as a stepping point or starting whatever for the drawings. So to start with exploring on a personal level what silence is, and then materialize this in a way for the public, like you guys, to contemplate what I actually found. It all sounds very pretentious. So it's really an experiment and more of a research work. Despite the presentation, like it's finished, it's still in process. So that's about my answer.
Yes, I would like to go deeper to the questions about silence and etc. But now I think we give words to his own.
Yeah. Sorry if my voice shakes because I'm so cold still. Like if I were to say about the departure point, after working on a book, I was not well. I was having a bit of a difficult time, and also, and then I watched news a lot, and then I follow like what's happening in the world, and it's just everything seems so dark. We're all like going down, That was the feeling I had for like many months, and I saw this like kind of like this is always like a repeating. We think, oh, we just finished this, but then like the same thing comes back again. We're dealing with the same situation all over again. So that was sort of like what made me think about habituation. Like we repeat the same thing over and over, and then at times that when we just accept it as it is someone else will take different steps to break that habituation. So that was like a sort of the starting point. And yeah, so I don't know if I need to like go
Yes.
further, but if I were to just say like a departure point, also I see within myself like how I habituate, like on a daily basis or emotionally, like it's just like always same thing I feel like I'm going through. And then I think I learned how to deal with it, but then I haven't, and then I still do the same, like, kind of unhealthy, like a repetition every time I, deal with it, face with a certain situations. So I also wanted to really break that. So, yeah, so I was like thinking about habituation in a very negative way, and then I thought, okay, like how to disinhabituate. So, yeah, so that was sort of the beginning of the work.
Yeah. After this short introduction, I think it's very clear that both artists work with inner feelings and artworks very, very personal. And I know that it's not only one thing which connects Andrew and his song, because both of them are professional cello players,
I'm not
musicians.
professional,
No,
but yeah, I
but
played
players,
cello
they
for a long time. Yes.
and both of you published a book, right? It's very interesting, but anyway, it's a lot of common between you, but still a question: what is why you come up with the idea to work together? What is a growing point for this?
Maybe Emily can,
Yeah, I mean, I've known Emily Song now for, it feels like many years.
yeah.
I'm very happy with our friendship. Christine, the owner of this space, introduced us to each other. Well, I remember Christine said, "Here, this is his song, she plays the cello." And okay, and we both work with the same luthier, what's that, violin maker with Nosmaras.
Yeah.
So we have each other.
Same cello shop.
Yeah, same cello shop.
Yeah.
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 So there were certain things like, so I'm trained as a cellist, but at that moment, well, I didn't play at the gallery, of course, that was an exception. So I don't, my focus is now more on making drawings and sometimes I write a book. But yeah, so it was kind of nice to have this, yeah, it's something you can't explain in a way, like going to the same education or recognizing, like studying all day, otherwise you get out of practice, that kind of thing. And I also think in our work, once you know that we're classical trained musicians, that you can tell, you don't have to, but like it's repetition. Anyway, I had lunch with you at your
Yes,
place.
you came over for lunch.
I came over for
Yeah.
lunch. Like it was really, yeah, beautiful.
In my tiny
small. So it was very nice. You made really interesting food, very good. Also, like it was like, and I was very close to Bos, to the violin shop. So I used to teach music and cello, and I would send my students to Bos to rent. So I had some business to finish with them. We live close, so that's how we combined both things. And then I think, did I bring it up?
Yeah.
I said, like, maybe we could do something together. We have a show together, or with the score, the idea of the score. Like, score reading a score of music, right? And I think maybe, and I was also fed by, you said something like, yeah, but I like to play Bach. You have music on your stand or something?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit how my brain works. So I just felt, okay. And here we are training to read music. So how would you express that? Or like what we just said about our emotions. We try to express our emotions through a certain medium. So anyway, the score, and then I improvise at the gallery with the cello to test it out, how it would be. To read, yeah, yeah, and also to read work, drawings of some other artists, without having sheet music. So to read lines, and we had a conversation and you said like, but then you can read anything, and everything is scripts. And that's a very old idea from, I think, Middle Ages, that you read the nature or you read signs like people did before they could actually read, right? And it's, so this connection to these, I'm trying to explain very complex concepts, but I felt like, oh, we have something. It's very base. We should do something. And later, the title is Resonance. That kind of came across later. It's like when we started to develop the work, so we developed the work separately on purpose to really stay in our own language. Because we felt we have this basis already, somehow. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how I
Yeah,
need
so
something
there
else.
was casual lunch,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then I was thinking about this score, and then like, oh, actually, and so then that's how it kind of
We
developed.
talked about a lot of stuff
Yeah.
also, like the whole development of scores, or, I gave her a book by John Cage 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice for her to have because John Cage was a composer and a visual artist, so he made drawings and they're so beautiful. You could play them or perform them. So he was one of the people that lifted this boundary, I think, with other composers. Edith also was a great visual art. So that's how we kind of weaved our way.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it was 2 years ago, so it was quite a long journey from this lunch to our today's artist talk and today's exhibition. And how you feel now when it's not just like an idea, but when it's already exists, how you feel this resonance between your artworks? How you feel?
I mean, like, if I were to talk about the resonance between our works,
Yes, here,
yeah.
in this space.
What was interesting to me was that, because we talked about like the score and then like the work being read, but we didn't really talk about like specifics of our works. And when I saw Emily's work for the first time here, and then she saw my work for the first time.
We always
did,
send detailed photos, like
detail, like, the flyer photo doesn't say that you cannot really
You
tell
can't
what
see
kind
it.
of work I made. I mean, of course, I have better idea about Emily's work, but then, like, Emily had never seen anything. Also, my work was kind of like buried in my tiny apartment, like, with all this building materials, so I couldn't really, like, share. But
we exchanged a lot of emails and phone calls.
Yeah.
I was trying to get information.
But I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. Yeah.
Because we also applied separately, so we
Yeah.
separated everything except for the concept of resonance. Because that would be a more honest way of working.
Yeah.
It would resonate or not. But yes. So in a sense, we created this conversation.
But then it was so interesting because her work is called Living Silence. And then my work, in a way, it kind of points to the silent moments by having all these things like going all silent all together. Like having that 1:80, they all go silent. So, I don't know, like, for me that was very interesting because we never discussed it, but then something like my work also kind of points to the silence whatever we perceive as silent moments, and then like it always work, you know? Like we partly form the idea of silence. So for me that was already very interesting. And yeah, I mean like I think that was like the first thing, like I was a bit like, oh, you know, like we never discussed it and then like I feel that like the conversation is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now I would like to go through the question about the process of creation, because I know some details from you and also from you, and really I find it very interesting. Emily, could you maybe first share some details, because I know that you create your artworks also in the way that with lunar phases.
Yeah.
And I also know that you use some special pigments. Can you tell us a bit more why you related with lunar phases, and what pigment you use?
So the work I show here, they are connected to lunar phases, so the new moon and full moon. So I follow the cycles. I follow them in general when I garden or when I start. Usually when I start new work or new thoughts, I connect it to the new moon. When the new moon is like in the middle of the night, I'm not getting out of bed to start working, but I will go to the next day. And I keep a very detailed score of all the phases, and then I connect it to certain things I do. And for me, it has personal value, but also when you read about it, a lot of more ecological gardening, they work with lunar phases. So it's a way of connecting to nature elements. That's one thing. And the pigments, yeah, I make art. I would love to make all of my inks myself, but that's impossible. So I make certain inks myself. So and I mix it up. So some are made of beets, and some are made of chestnut peels, kastanje, dus de groene schil, the green peel around so I mix it with earth or synthetic pigments. And it's easier when you stand in front of them, but I told you, like, so I tried to create this alchemy of different fluids, different materials, in order to be able to work in a very free way, because I do make the drawings after meditation, but I don't want it to be overly studied or like, now I'm going to make a score. No, I want it to reflect what I feel, or I'm just experimenting. So at a certain point I got this method, like, okay, I start with one organic ink, then I add some pigments, then I add this and that. So
And did you notice that that lunar moon affects your maybe artist style? Maybe if it's full moon, you do maybe more vivid or something affective or opposite.
It's interesting question. I really actually don't know. I know that when it's full moon, I put out, I call it moon water, so I put out large bottles. So people are looking at, yeah, so it gets charged with lunar energy.
And then you use it as water.
Yeah, all the water, everything I use is with moon water.
Wow, but it's close to anthroposophy, right? Something.
I don't know.
It's magic.
It kind of, or more alchemy. So of course, when you mix certain things, when you mix for instance, I made ink with these oxidated coins. I have a lot of recipes I take out of books. They're in Canada. There are a few ink makers. They publish some books. I bought all of them, but only some recipes work here because they have other ingredients. So it's also very
from the moment when you understand that you really want to create the boxes with the light, with the mechanism inside, how it grows.
So when I was thinking about the idea of habituation a lot, the repetition and like repeated patterns of daily life, I was like cleaning, and then I saw this like, you know, like sometimes like dust, it kind of creates this string-like, you know, it was dust, but like a string-like dust was like hanging from the ceiling, and it's like by the window, and it was like moving like so slightly. So it's like a dust string, it's just kind of going like this. I cleaned a lot, but then it was still there. So, so I was like, I'm trying to like reach, but then I was like, that's quite interesting. But then I kind of like got interested in that whole idea of like slight movement of strings. So it was kind of like a here and there, like elements of my work came together, and then like with the structure, it was also like kind of looking out, like of my observations of the world or situations, but then also kind of like looking inward. I don't know, I was like obsessed with like a fish tank, you know. It was like you kind of look in. It's not like there's something dramatic happening, but then we look into it, you know. So so it was like a different elements coming together, and then also like the text has always been like an integral part of my work, and then I also wanted to kind of break that. You know, I was telling you like I wanted to not do it this time. The text would not be part of. Actually, it was. I thought initially I would include text, but then I thought no, it would not be the case this time. You know. So with the whole idea of habituation and this habituation, I thought, okay, I want to like only rely on physical representation of my ideas. So yeah, so all these like different elements came together, and yeah.
And I know that you also did it by your own, right? So
Yeah.
it's your own instruments.
I mean, like, so the other
All these constructions was
Yeah.
already for your own.
Yeah. So I also used to like working with like electronics, like building my own like radio and like, you know, just like with a hobby, you know.
Hobby.
Yeah. I don't know. I love like soldering. Probably the smell is very toxic, but then I was like, I love this, you know. But I wanted to also like kind of get more physical with my work. Because I worked on a film and a book prior to this work, and then I was kind of like, I really felt it that I need to get more physical. So yeah, so that's sort of like how we came together. And with the motors, I wanted to really go analog. You know, so it has to, because I really wanted myself like working very physical manner, but I also wanted my work to be more physical while I'm like working with a subtle movement. So yeah, so these motors, and then what interested me like along the way, I was like testing different stuff. I was also interested in the sound. I was like, wow, this is like the overtone singing of like these monks, you know, Tibetan monks, but then like in a very mild way. You know, it's like, oh, but then it's very mild. So somehow, like for me, it was like, there was this connection. It's kind of like a reflection or like not meditation or, you know, along that line. Somehow like I thought, oh, this makes sense. So for me, that, yeah.
You told me, because
Yeah.
it's so funny. So she said, yeah, it's gonna make sound. I was a bit worried for a while.
Yeah.
I said, oh boy.
My work is called living silence.
Run now. And then she said like, oh no, it's like the purring of cats.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
very gentle. Yeah.
I have, so
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, it creates like the sea, like this
Yeah.
rhythm.
Because it's a kind of similar to the sound we hear in our house, you know? Like
It is.
refrigerator, like, you know, these things, like always, there's like, always. So you only notice it like when they suddenly go silent.
Or someone play cello
Yeah.
in the neighborhood.
Right, yeah. I'm doing that, but,
Thank you.
yeah, exactly. So I thought, yeah, like you can consider this as noise, but then maybe not, you know? Maybe it's something that we're so familiar that we don't recognize it as a like aggressive noise. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Once I read some article that there is a place with very exalted chamber where you can come to put yourself in the absolutely silent space. And then you can start hearing your heart beating
Right.
and how the liquid circulate inside you. And usually we don't hear it because we have a lot of noise
Yeah.
around us. And as we talk about silence, I have a question with Emily. I think it's very interesting that you create this artwork from the condition of emptiness. When you're absolutely empty, right? When you, through the meditation, you leave behind all your worries, thoughts, ideas, and etc., what you're going to buy for dinner, who said what and why, so everything. So you leave yourself empty, and then you create it from the emptiness. But when you write a book, because initially I know you as a writer, very, very brave writer who arises very social important topics. Thank you for that. So, and how it's for you, this two process seems to be very difficult, absolutely difficult. I would say even controversial, right? When you have an idea and you create the text, the book, message, and when you have emptiness, but you still create something. How is for you?
Yes, well, the processes are separate from each other. So when I'm working on a book, I can't also work on visual arts. So I plan everything meticulously, so I know, okay, I knew it was going to be done, the book, then I can do this, the drawing, and the complete emptiness. In Buddhism, it's called Satori. You reach this state of complete emptiness. I am not there. I try to get there, to get to the emptiness, because then I could start the automatic work. So basically, I think what you see here is me trying to get rid of thoughts or feelings. But I also, I showed them, but because I work in this flow, so because I connected also to this lunar system, the time is limited, so I'm not designing, so yeah, I'm doing this because this is actually what I do, so I make certain movements. And I also use Japanese calligraphy techniques, like the Enzo technique, that you try to make a circle on a breathing cycle or one breath. So all of this to limit the rationality. You know what I mean? Like, so yes, so there are different things, different processes. And I must say, I really enjoy joy, and writing is really hard.
Very hard, it's different.
It's different.
the main idea for the work. I actually I want to read a paragraph from this book because I think it summarizes my idea quite well. So this book it came out in 2024. Now it's 2025. Yeah, so it came out last year. So I just started working on my work, and then I came across this book, and then it's about habituation. It is habituation, So sorry, I have to take my glasses off. Okay. Have you ever noticed that what is thrilling on Monday becomes boring by Friday? Even exciting relationships, stimulating jobs, and breathtaking works of art lose their sparkle after a while. People stop noticing what is wonderful in their own lives and also what is terrible. They overlook cracks in their relationships and get used to pollution. They accept authoritarianism and take foolish risks. They ignore their own misconduct and are more susceptible to disinformation. But what if you could see everything anew? What if you could regain sensitivity to the great things in life as well as to the bad things you stopped noticing, and so don't try to change? So I think it kind of summarizes it's very eloquently, it summarizes my idea. Yeah, I just wanted to share that. So habituation can be a useful thing, but then my starting point of habituation was very negative. I was focusing on the bad things being repeated, but then after reading this book, I was reminded actually it could be useful things. If we are in a certain situation, like a dangerous situation, we know how to deal with the situation because if we know we've experienced before, so with that experience, we know how to deal with it. That's a useful aspect of a habituation, but then, all the violence and things that we get so accustomed to seeing, at a certain point we're like, yeah, it happened before, So in that sense, yeah. And then also breaking my own pattern, because I was talking to Rumi coach just before, and she said I also want you to break that, a certain way my work is being received. And I was like, oh my God. Oh. I also wanted to do that through this work. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's much more deeper than it looks on the first sight.
Yeah.
Much more
I want people to
rituals.
kind of look at it, and then because you don't have to come up with this is what I'm supposed to see or what I'm supposed to feel, but then I just want them to kind of take their time and maybe on your way home and then you can think about certain things.
This is a beautiful answer to the session.
Yeah.
And I know that you also prepared some questions to each other.
But I feel that some of my questions got covered.
Okay.
Actually,
your questions.
all our questions got covered by you.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I also have a small text about residents that I would like to read.
Yes.
Yes?
Of course.
Maybe I should do that.
Of course.
This is from a book of noises. It's a book by Casper Henderson. She ordered it, she's still waiting for it. Yeah, because I saw this book in Utrecht at Steven Sterk, the bookstore, and I just saw it, picked it up, and then I didn't buy it. I went home and I was in the train, and I thought, oh no, I just couldn't. I was thinking about the book, so I went back to get it, and now it's out of print, and I told her about it.
Yeah.
Damn, I want that book.
Yeah.
And she's still waiting for it to arrive, I think, but
Well, they canceled it.
it's very, yeah. So, he collects fragmented stories and anecdotes on sound, and I'll read two paragraphs from the chapter on resonance. Sound is governed by resonance, a phenomenon that shapes reality at every level, determining the existence of subatomic particles, the process that creates the atoms of life, the orbits of moons, and the run of the tides. Resonance, explains the physicist Ben Brubaker, occurs when an object is subject to an oscillating force that is close to one of its natural or resonant frequencies. A simple example is a playground swing. Push on it at the right time and the swing will go high, hopefully eliciting whoops of delight from a child on the swing. But however hard you push, the swing, which is in effect a pendulum, will resist variation from its natural frequency. The reason why I read it this slowly is because I want to understand what I'm reading. It's quite complex stuff, and it gets into physics and a lot of things that I think are way beyond my comprehension. But I do like what he says about resonance, that there is a natural frequency, and somehow I feel that this is kind of happening here with Rahul.
And how everything has connection with everything and resonates.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are a lot of famous writers who write about exactly this thing. So it's a very important phenomenon to spend time thinking about dedicating your time to it.
Thank you for reading. And maybe someone also would like to ask something.
Maybe I have one question. It was more my first impression when I came in this place. I slowly discovered that you didn't make a conversation on how you build this space together. That's interesting because from both of your works, I found framing is kind of like important part. I mean, maybe practically you need a frame to present in space, but at the same time, how you're thinking about the content of your work and your soul behind is so opening up and then yeah, it's great, but you need this frame to present it. And then you were talking about score. Score could be kind of training to put the soul of music into to register. So you need it, and then you cannot live without, maybe. So
That's very interesting. Yeah. I mean,
that's my question.
yeah. Because for me, initially, I wasn't going to have this structure. Was gonna like actually use the whole space. Then I wanted to make it more internal, then more intimate, and then like I got really obsessed by the idea of reflective space. So like reflecting like internally, but then also like literally reflective space. It's kind of like looking into my own internal, like what's happening, internally, what's happening. So then the whole thing changed. So instead of using the whole structure and then having everything exposed, I thought in that case the focus could be more on the mechanism of things more than the concept that I want to communicate. So So then there came this more like a looking in idea with the frame. Yeah. But that's very interesting because you say like the score also kind of like binds certain ideas in like certain frame.
Yeah,
Right?
to let the
Yeah.
audience or whoever to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is kind of the key.
Right. But that's very interesting because I never thought it that way. Yeah. But then for me it was more like I wanted to make it something like you look into. Yeah. Like a fish tank, like I mentioned.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but very interesting. You know? Yeah. Because also what is very interesting is that what we are saying that we want to work outside this four corners when we approach in our approach to score, the concept of score, we want to think outside four corners. You know? But you know it's very interesting. Yes, it's not two-dimensional. Like here, like it's more it's three-dimensional, but still like in our own way. You know, like it's very interesting because we said like we want to work out, you know, like go beyond these four corners. But yeah, interesting, like these two things coming together. Yeah.
Thank you for this
Yeah, it's
question.
very